Okay, so I think why don't we start off with introductions, and we'll start with. Oh, before I get too far, let me just refresh all the candidates in case you don't know. Dana here is keeping the time. If you get the yellow card, you have 30 seconds left. Red card, you're out of time. So if you could kind of glance that way every so often, and he'll fill you in. So let's start with introductions, and we can keep these to about 30 seconds so we can start in on questions. We'll start with Mr. Werner.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the Concord Monitor for organizing this forum tonight. I come to this City Council position, which I have served for 10 years now, with an advocacy background, and I bring that to my work on the Concord City Council. I advocate for my constituents. I advocate for the residents of the city. I advocate for sound policies that will lead to economic growth and to opportunity for people. I advocate for the interests of our city, and I would like to talk more about that with you tonight. I ask for your vote on November 7th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Forey.
Hi, my name is Rod Forey. I work for the Department of Homeland Security. I oversee operational security for all of New England. I'm the retired director of the Youth Development Center in Manchester, where I had a budget of $30 million and over 400 employees. I'm a U.S. veteran of the United States Coast Guard, both active duty and reservist. I have a bachelor and master's degree, and I'm looking forward to potentially serving the people of the South End, the gem of the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nyan.
Thank you very much. My name is Keith Nyan. I'm a fourth-generation resident of the South End. I have had the privilege of serving in Ward 7 for 12 years. I look forward to your vote on November 7th and serving another term. While serving Ward 7, I have tried to champion and be a strong voice for fiscal conservatism, and I hope to continue to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Mattson.
Hi, I'm Gail Mattson. I am a native of Maine and a graduate of St. Anselm College. I have 2 children in college. I am a single working parent. I believe I'm representative of the people in my ward as well as the city. I'm middle class. I work hard for a living, and I am financially conservative and socially accepting. And I feel that I'm here to bring a strong constituent representation, and that I'm looking forward to working towards the vibrancy of Concord's future. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Susi.
Hi, my name is Dennis Susi. I've lived in Concord for 35 years. My wife on the Concord Heights, Ward 8. My wife has lived here, I won't tell you her age, but all her life. I'm a 2-year cancer survivor, and it was a fight of my life, and I'm better. I'm 95, 98% getting better. And I'm retired now, and I'm a Catholic pro-life veteran. And we have 3 kids and 1 grandson. And 2 of our kids, one's in Texas, one's in Florida, and they both went through the hurricanes. And it's been a turmoil lately for us, going back and forth. And but we're surviving, and I'd like to have Ward 8 have a choice and a voice. And I know many people, and there's probably more people here tonight than voted in Ward 8.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Sky.
Thank you. My name is David Sky, and I've been inspired to run for Ward 10 City Council through my involvement with the Bernie Sanders campaign for president. I've lived, worked, and raised a family here in Ward 10. I participated in city advisory groups and local advocacy groups. I volunteered at the Cold Winter Shelter, the Friendly Kitchen, and as a CASA speaking for abused and neglected children in our state's family courts. I'm the Chief Life Accident and Health Actuary at the New Hampshire Insurance Department. I provide an experienced alternative to the current incumbent and look forward to tonight's forum. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Zulkich.
Thank you. I want to thank you all for being here tonight. I want to thank you for participating, and lastly, I want to thank you for staying awake. It's Tuesday night. It's a busy night. There are 2 reasons why I'm running for this position. Number 1, I want to inspire young people. One of the statistics that Councilor Hirschlag likes to use is that only 15% of our population is involved in municipal elections. So if you're watching this on TV or if you're here tonight and you're my age, I encourage you to get involved because real change happens on this level.
Thank
Number
you.
two, I'll be quick. I believe, and I don't mean in any disrespectful way or malicious way, but I believe that City Council right now is full of career politicians, and I feel like that we need younger people, new faces, and new perspectives in City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to mention Sean Riley is a candidate in Ward 5, and Dan St. Hilaire is a candidate in Ward 10.
And he let us know he wasn't able to be here tonight. So I'm going to put the first question to all the candidates. I would encourage you to speak directly into the microphone and keep an eye on the timekeeper, Dana, in front of you. So we're going to start from left to right, beginning with Mr. Warner, and everybody has 2 minutes. What do you see as the top priority issue in your ward, and what would you do about it?
In my ward, in terms of, in contrasting the entire city, or specifically Ward 5?
You tell us, Ward 5.
Well, you know, I've been working with the neighbors on Pleasant Street for the last number of months regarding the Concord Orthopedics situation in terms of building that new facility there. And I've come to the conclusion, number one, I'd like to say that my hat's off to the residents of that neighborhood and being able to protect that neighborhood and band together. I think that is an issue that's very important for the ward for a number of reasons. Number one, I think the integrity of the neighborhood itself is very important. There are alternatives in terms of where that facility can be built, where it can be expanded, where those services can be provided. But I also fear that a decision to rezone that entire neighborhood to an institutional zone sets a bad precedent for the rest of the city. So for me, over the last number of months, specific to Ward 5, that has become a major issue of discussion with those constituents. I also would say that maintaining our balance between open space and economic development and community development is something that really sets the city apart, and I think that's something that we need to continue to pay attention to. I think we've done a terrific job thus far over many years in balancing those interests, but I think that's something that we need to be cognizant of and deliberate in our decision making to make sure that we maintain that quality of life in our city, because it is a very special mix in that way.
Thank you. Mr. Forey?
I think the top priority for Ward 7 is the middle school. I've been going door to door in the South End and talking to people, and ironically enough, I'm a little surprised that the people's priorities are a little bit different than the council. Not that far off, but a little bit different. So the middle school is the #1 priority. And when I say that, when I've talked to people, the people that live on Springfield Street, they're worried that if we build new and move in their backyards, we move the school. People on Conant, South Street, Wynett, Norwich, where I live, the traffic patterns, how it's going to affect us, because people can't get out onto South Street now with Conant and Rundlet. So, and also the cost, what is going to cost the average taxpayer to do this. I mean, it has to be done, we know that. We just heard the school board candidates, and how do we go about that? We just need to make sure that we do our due diligence on it, and we check all of these things out. So going door to door has really opened my eyes to the priorities of the people in the ward, you know, specifically the South End. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nyan?
Thank you very much. First and foremost, the interests of Ward 7 do, in this case, do align with that of the city, which is taxes. First and foremost, in order to prevent ongoing tax increases, we as a council need to continue to focus on tax base expansion. Answering the more direct question, what are the primary issues of Ward 7 or the parochial issues to the ward, I agree with Mr. Forey. It certainly is the middle school and the impact it will have on the neighborhoods, but that also extends not just to the immediacy of the neighborhoods in the Rundlet area, but also the safe streets throughout Ward 7. We have used the speed trailer extensively in Ward 7 to keep speeds down, to tell residents and those coming through the ward that they're traveling too fast. We need to continue to advocate for neighborhood street paving paving in Ward 7, and certainly the ongoing development of Rollins Park is an issue that we need to remain vigilant to. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mattson?
Hi, thank you. For Ward 8, I believe one of the major concerns is Northern Pass. I serve on the board, the subcommittee as the chair, and Northern Pass is going to have some serious and permanent negative effects to the city on the aerial path that's currently proposed. If the State Evaluation Committee decides to go forward with this project, it would seriously impact many residents throughout Ward 8 in a negative way. We had done quite a bit of work with the board to gather information from Eversource and residents and all stakeholders to determine how this project would roll out and how it would look for the communities, as well as environmental issues. But with towers that could reach 165 feet, a few feet from houses and buildings, that in itself would have some serious effects. And so after having put our report together, the council did decide to vote as a board to, as the council, to say that we would need we would request that the project be buried throughout Concord. We are the most visually affected based on our population throughout the entire state. I mean, we have the highest, the highest population base, so we would be the most visually affected. And as the city, as the capital, we are also showing, we are also quite affected. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Susi?
Yeah, we have a beautiful downtown Concord, but I don't think all the money should be spent downtown. We ought to distribute it more throughout all 10 wards in the city of Concord. But like Gail Masson said, Northern Pass is one of the biggest things in Ward 8. I've talked to a lot of people in Ward 8 about Northern Pass, and I'm sorry to say, but they were promised and told a lot of things that I don't think they should have been told, and some people believe it, but it's going to come. I'm telling people it's going to come no matter how you look at it. It might be 5 years, 10 years, but you're going to have that. Hopefully they're going to bury it. I hope we can work on that, but we have a lot of open space in Concord. We have a lot of room for commercial development. We have land around the airport, land on Manchester Street, Integra Drive, by the mall. I don't know what's going to happen to the mall. I mean, we got plenty of land there. We could have, if the mall does go out, we could use that as a good commercial footing for something. I don't really know what we can do there, but probably, I don't know if we have a lot of elderly people in Ward 8, but it's just like a lot of people say their taxes are going up and a lot of them can't find work. I know I have 3 children and none of them live or work in Concord. They have to go elsewhere for jobs. And I just think that we should look at commercial growth. I mean, we have to keep a lot of green space, but we have plenty of room in Ward 8 for commercial growth, and I think we should be looking into that and develop it, and that would be the way to go, to lower our taxes and keep people happy. But thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sky?
Thank you. I think, well, the biggest challenge for Concord is that its primary source of revenue is property taxes. And what that does, it's a challenge because I think that it's caused the city council to have short-term focus on some of its decisions instead of a long-term focus. And some examples for that is the development that's going on in the Heights. More box stores with more cutouts, the kind of development that the citizens have expressed that they don't want in the Heights when we were discussing the road diet. So I'm for sustainable growth, more of a long-term focus, and I think a big challenge is the property tax being our primary source of revenue. I'd be remiss not to mention Northern Pass is a huge issue. I heard it affects Ward 8. It significantly affects Ward 10. Comes down Mountain Road, cuts across Turtle Pond. It will have a significant impact on property values, and a number of residents are very concerned about it. And the third thing, and I don't think it's really on anyone's radar, is the widening of I-93 from exit 12 to exit 16. That's going to go from 4 lanes to 6 lanes within the next 10 years. It's going to change traffic flow throughout our city. It's going to affect the on-off ramps, and I think that's a major issue that we need to really be involved with the state as this project sort of ramps up. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Zolkik?
Thank you. If you live in Ward 10, the major issue is pretty apparent. I drive by maybe 10 signs every day that oppose the Northern Pass. There are 3 groups of people in Ward 10. There are people that are super opposed to the Northern Pass, and no matter what you tell them, they're opposed to it. Then you have people that are super for it, and they're super for it. There's no changing their mind. And then you have people in between, like myself. I believe the Northern Pass is okay as long as we bury it underground. I don't want a 160 feet tower all over my house. A lot of the house values will go down if this is allowed, and the environmental damage is going to be huge. So the biggest issue in Ward 10 is the Northern Pass. Thank you.
Okay, we'll stay with you, Mr. Zolkich. Is the city on the right path with its investment on the downtown core?
Yes and no. I believe the biggest issue that we have in Concord is inviting younger people like myself and my wife to live in Concord. I believe that Concord is bigger than the downtown. There's not much to do in Concord for younger people like myself. If my wife and we want to go to a mall, we rarely go to Steeplegate Mall. We'll usually drive down to Manchester Mall. If we want to go see a movie, we'll rarely go to the movie place on Loudon Road. We'll usually go down to Manchester. There's not much to do for younger people in Concord. I don't believe we should be spending all our money on downtown. The investment that we made was nice. It looks nice, but there's not much to do downtown for younger people. Thank you.
Mr. Sky?
I think there's a lot of good about the downtown project, but I guess one of my concerns when I go downtown now, I see banks, financial management firms, and law offices, and I think that I'd like to see this more incentives or a way to attract brick and mortar businesses, retail businesses. I sort of echo Alvar's remarks. There's these banks, law offices, and financial wealth management firms aren't destination places for people to visit. And I'd like to see downtown be more of a vibrant place with places to attract people to come visit and shop and just walk around. I'm excited about what I'm hearing about the DOE building and that project with residential units with retail space below. I think that has great possibility for the downtown area. Thanks.
Mr. Susi?
Yeah, I'm all for economic development, like Mayor Boulay said. I think the building on South Main Street would be a fine piece of property, and they're bringing money into the city. I know it's going to cost money to have the building tore down, and I don't know if there's a way that we can guarantee that $300,000 we're going to spend on that. What if the developer backs out of it and we just spent $300,000 on really, I wouldn't say nothing, but do we have a deposit on that money? Or I'd like to know if the developer would pay anything towards it. And, you know, we have a lot going on in Concord, and like, it's just, you know, we have to lower our taxes, and we have to try and all work together, and we have to come up with a good solution on what we're going to do. I mean, one person doesn't have the right answers. They always say to you, you wonder where the people with the answers get the answers. Well, I look my answers up. If I want to know something, I look it up. And really, anybody can do that. And getting back to McKenna's purchase, one guy I know who lives there is 81 years old, and he said to me just last week alone, well, it's going to go through and it's going to be in my backyard. And I says, well, if they bury it, you'll be okay. And he said to me, well, I'll be dead in 8-10 years anyway. Hopefully not, but we just have to work all together and get everything done. And a lot of people have a lot of good ideas. The mayor has a lot of good ideas, and I'm willing and open to listen to anything at all. Whatever you want to talk about or reason with, I'm willing.
Ms. Mattson.
Hello. I believe that the work that we've done with Main Street revitalization has set us a great foundation, and we're poised to bring in many new businesses. We've had new interest from businesses and events coordinators to come to our city, which may not have been here previously. Some of the things that we're working towards that is our economic development with having hired Susie Pegg, and we, especially in Ward 8, we have quite a bit of commercial and industrial, opportunities and land. So we are looking to bring more businesses in, and it's not simply about Main Street, but what that has done is set the stage for us so that we are in a position to capitalize on the work that we've done, on the gains that we've made, and to try to just build off of that momentum. So that's what I see it as, and I'm looking at that as we haven't completely forgotten about the rest of the city. I know people seem to be worried about the money that's been spent on Main Street, but it started something up. But we have a community center. We've done many work. I mean, we've done a lot of the repaving from Fisherville all the way down to Pennacook, the redevelopments in Pennacook, and the businesses that we've worked with there, along with the DES building. But we've done apartment buildings down in Petticoat as well that we just had voted on to sell. So the whole idea here is that we're working towards bringing in and attracting businesses that will bring growth to the city, but bringing in jobs and job growth. And I think that that's part of it too, is to attract younger people. We want to bring that vibrancy to the city. We are an aging community, and we'd like to see that shot in the arm. But that's why we've put money into our infrastructure, as well as our our parks and all of the trails that we have, the sustainability, walkability, bikeability. We're trying to bring those young people in to revitalize the city and bring our tax base down. Thank you.
Mr. Nyan.
Thank you very much. I think Councilor Mattson is spot on first in mentioning that there have been other investment opportunities in the city, but I'll come back to that. The question is, has the investment in downtown, I believe, been critical, been important, has it generated the tax base expansion really that we've sought for? And the answer is absolutely yes. And it doesn't begin with the downtown revitalization project or the complete streets project. It goes back 14 plus years when the council invested in the Store Street garage, and that led to the creation of other opportunities on Main Street for tax base expansion, which include the development of the Smile Building, the Dallas Block Apartments. We now have the Employment Security Building, which is poised for redevelopment. There's the redevelopment of the county courthouse. All of these things have been critical factors and will remain critical factors in the long-term economic development and expansion of the city's tax base. That's not to be overlooked, that during the same time, we've also invested very large sums, millions and millions of dollars in the Fisherville Road project. We've invested money in the Loudon Road project. We've put money in downtown Pennacook. All of these things are critical parts of Concord's long-term economic success and long-term vitality.
Mr. Forey.
I'm going to try to focus on the downtown because I think that was the question. So I think that the downtown revitalization is absolutely beautiful. I think it was the right move for the city. I'm not convinced that it's going to be long-term financially great for us, tax base-wise, so I do believe one of the City Council's priorities that they've laid out on their website and that they've talked about at meetings is, a citywide economic development plan for everywhere, which I think Keith touched on, and I think he's absolutely right in that area. So I do applaud the mayor and the council for what they've done downtown, but we have to look a little bit beyond the downtown area too for more long-term solutions to our perpetual increased property tax and the burden that it has on folks. You know, in talking about economic development, I don't think that we're going to get Amazon to come here, but I do think that we're going to be able to attract small businesses, which is the basis of the American dream and what we can do. And that's going to help us to expand our tax base. And I think the downtown itself, because now it's so pretty and vibrant and vitalized and people like to go there, I think that's a selling feature for us to attract businesses to the city. So I think it was a good move on the part of the mayor and the council. And going door to door, talking to people in the South End, I was curious about that, because sometimes we, people on the council, and we have our own opinion on it, but we don't know what the people really think. And most people, door to door, told me that they liked it, but they still want to see economic development in the city. Thank you.
Mr. Warner.
In order to spark economic growth, economic opportunity, you have to make significant investments on the front end and involve a large group of people while you're doing that. And that's exactly the course that the city followed, the city council, community leaders followed in terms of developing Main Street. And really the proof is in what we see today. A very vital downtown. A downtown that was a bit tired at the heels and really needed to be revitalized. The other night, just on Sunday night, you couldn't find a parking place. People are coming into the city. People are stopping here on their way back and forth to the mountains. They've heard about it. This is Concord's Main Street. And I think that it's vital that we continue to expand the tax base through things like the Employment Security Building. I think it's terrific that you're going to have so many people living downtown. It is a very much of a trend in terms of folks moving back into more concentrated areas. And those services, restaurants, things for them to do, things like going to Red River, and certainly having a grocery store in proximity to the downtown is vital. All those things are in place to continue to make our community the vital place that it can be and that it is. So I applaud what we've done, but I think that we always have to look out ahead to see how things can be improved and where economic development can continue to occur.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. No Amazon? I'm disappointed.
I'm going to work on it.
All right, we're going to field some questions now to everybody. You have 1 minute to answer, and Daniel will let you know when you have 30 seconds left. And we're going to start with Mr. Warner. What responsibility do you think the city has, and is it meeting it, to the immigrant and refugee population? And do you think that municipalities and cities should be getting more help from the state or from the federal government?
I absolutely think that we need more assistance from the federal government and the state. This is a national problem, a national opportunity, I think. To me, I think we've done a very good job of welcoming the immigrant community into Concord. They add so much to our community. And they add in so many ways, both in terms of the economic activity that they generate, and I think that generally the integration into the community has been very positive. I also think that when, unfortunately, some incidents that have happened, some racially motivated incidents have occurred, I applaud the swift response of the mayor and other leaders in the city to say that those kinds of actions, those kinds of attitudes are unacceptable in our community. And it's really important to do that in a strong way to send that message.
Thank you. Mr. Forey?
I agree. 100% I agree with that. I think that it's an ever-evolving issue with the refugees coming to not only Concord, but to all the communities in New Hampshire. And I think that it brings diversity to our city. And I think that when you bring diversity to our city, it makes our city stronger. Bringing other cultures to our city. Even the downtown, again, we have different restaurants down there with different cultures. You go up in the Heights and you do see a lot of the refugees there. It's just, I think it's fascinating. I think it's great. And I think that that's the path that the city should go on, to welcome all refugees into Concord.
Thank you. Mr. Nyan?
Thank you very much. I'm probably going to reiterate what's already been said, but without question, first and foremost, I do welcome any federal and state aid in concert with the arrival of new Americans. The arrival of new Americans is a great thing for the city. It expands our cultural diversity. It makes us a better place to live. Several years ago, I had the privilege of coaching a young Bhutanese refugee in baseball. And the impact that that young child had on every player on that team, I have no doubt will extend throughout our community for many, many years. Child was embraced, the family was embraced, and it made everybody better people for it. Welcome them, look forward to them, and the city should do everything we can to accommodate their needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Madsen?
Hello. I also believe that the cultural diversity that the refugees bring is bringing a great new opportunity to us, both culturally and maybe even, as Rod had said, food-wise, which is awesome. Yeah. But in addition to that, we should try to get whatever state and federal aid that we can to assist us. Having said that, some of the things that we're doing to try to support that, I mean, the community center has been helpful, and the placement of it in terms of trying to assist by bringing the library factor there, where they might be able to access a computer and maybe they didn't have access to a computer, but the fact that many of the refugees may or may not have access to, we have some public transportation, but they may not have cars, to be able to walk to the community center, to have the ability to have a safe place to do sports. We've got Keach Park right nearby, which we've done development improvement with, but the whole idea there is to have those services in place that can help and nurture our refugee community, and thank you.
Mr. Susi? Thank you, Ms. Madsen.
Yeah, I'm for refugees for the simple reason. My meme and Pepe came down from Canada in 1912, and my mother's family came from Austria about the same time, and they all worked in the mill yards of Manchester. I was born in the mill yards of Manchester, and we all worked hard, and my 4 grandparents all became American citizens in the meantime. And back then, we didn't have a car, we didn't have a TV, and all they did was work, work, work. But they were refugees, and they knew when they came to America, they settled in Manchester, that they had plenty of work. They had the mill yards, were thriving. I mean, we have refugees at our church. Matter of fact, we have this woman, I don't even know her name, and her little daughter, probably about 2 years old, who I fell in love with. And every time she sees me in church or in the chapel at Immaculate Heart of Mary Church, she runs up to me and hugs me and sits with me. I mean, and her mother, it's the greatest. I mean, the girl is thinking about something, and, we give a lot of people a lot of stuff. We give them the food, and we give them diapers and whatever they want. And just like if you see all these homeless people out there and they want $20, $10, well, I offered one person to come with me to my church, and I will give him diapers and a bus ticket to anywhere. And they flatly refused. No, I want the money. It's not the thing. The money's going to go towards drugs. But if you can help these people, they will appreciate it a lot more in the long run.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sky?
Thank you. First and foremost, I would welcome state and federal aid, but even absent it, we're better for new Americans in our lives and in our city and in our community. So I think that the city should embrace the new Americans and do what it can to raise the tide, so to speak. A rising tide floats all boats, I think my wife likes to say. and I think that's the approach that the city should take.
Thank you. Mr. Zolkic?
Thank you. I'm originally from Burlington, Vermont, and Burlington, Vermont is extremely diverse. When I first moved to Concord, New Hampshire, one of the things that I realized is that Concord, or New Hampshire at large, is not really that diverse. One of the things that I'm grateful for is that over the years, over the last 4 or 5 years, I've noticed a drastic change in that. As a son of 2 refugees, this is really close to me, and this topic is dear to me, and I could go on for hours and hours talking about this, but I'll keep it simple. Yes, I agree we should accept more refugees in our society and our communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Zolcic, we'll stay with you. This is a question from the audience. What can the city do at the local level to promote green technology and encourage renewable energy alternatives?
It's an interesting question. I think we need to invest in more solar powers, houses, more solar technology. One of the things that I did notice on the highway going down to Manchester is that we have gas stations that power electric cars. I would like to see that more. Electric cars, solar panels, turbines. That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Sky.
Thank you. First, I guess I applaud the city's city efforts. My understanding is that the city recently excluded solar panels and other renewable energy sources that are built on residential sites from residential tax base. So that was I think that's an incentive to our residents to pursue alternative energy, and I think that's an important step. I think the city could do more to invest in renewable energy sources for its own energy use or for public energy use. I think there are some open spaces that might be attractive to renewable energy investments, and I think they should be explored. I own solar panels myself, and I drive an electric car, so these things are really important to me.
Mr. Susi.
Yeah, I think one person doesn't have all the answers, but if we put more questions on the ballot to have the people vote on different things that the city wants to do, I think it would be a better idea. It's just like we have on the council, you have a lot of older members and you have a lot of younger members on the city council. If I'm elected, I'll be probably one of the 3 oldest members on the board, and a lot of people like younger people. They got a lot of good ideas, but a lot of people like retired people because they have a lot of good ideas, and I think all this is up to the voters, and I wish more people would come out and vote, and not just the 15% that vote during the midterms or during any election. And I just think that all the people of Concord should have a vote or a say in it. I'm kind of for the Keno. At first, I didn't think that would be a good idea, but if it's going to bring
Okay, I see a
money
red
to
card
Concord,
here.
I think it would be.
Thank you. Ms. Mattson.
Hi. Mr. Sky touched upon it already, but we have, as the council, voted to give an exemption on the tax basis for solar and other energy, which is a step in the right direction. We also have been discussing opportunities for solar arrays towards the water treatment plant, and other opportunities that we've been discussing. We are looking towards that in that direction. It is something that is important to important to me, but I believe it's part of the council's view as well, is that that's the direction that we're going in, towards a more sustainable energy resource. Thank you.
Mr. Nyan.
Thank you very much. The City Council is a very diverse group, and you'll have an opportunity here. Councilor Werner, speak here in a couple minutes, who, without question, has been the strongest advocate and the loudest voice for renewable energy and smart city planning. And I give you all the kudos in the world for that, Councilor Werner. Over the past few years, the council has made tremendous efforts, in large part because of the recommendations from the Energy Committee, to include LED lighting on streets. We've invested in, as you just heard David Sky saying, Councilor Mattson mentioned, that we have passed credits for solar exemptions. We have invested in LED lighting and other energy conservation matters at our fire stations, and we have done so also at our City Hall complex. So we remain vigilant. Every opportunity that we can where it's economically and fiscally feasible, we have done so, and we will do so in the future. Thank you.
Mr. Forey.
I don't want to regurgitate everything everybody else said. I obviously believe in it. I probably will yield some time to the expert next to me. I will tell you that I play hockey at the Everett Arena. They have the LED lights. It's absolutely spectacular. Plus, they can dim them as well. Hopefully, they'll start doing that during the public skate, maybe. So I believe in it. And I believe the city could do more, though. I think we should always look at opportunities to do more. Maybe electric cars for our fleet. You could save a lot of money in the fleet as well. So I believe in renewable energy. I believe in green technology. I believe in solar. And I think that the city is heading in the right direction, but there's always opportunity to look and do more due diligence on the matter and see if we can make it better. Thank you.
Mr. Warner.
Thank you. I do chair the Concord Energy and Environment Committee. We have recently received the fantastic help from many new members who have brought a great deal of expertise to our work. And recently, you might have seen that on October 14th, the Concord Energy and Environment Committee launched what we're calling Ready for 100% Renewable Energy. So we are setting the admittedly very ambitious goal of saying that our community needs to be renewable energy by 2050 in all respects. And there's many other things that we can talk about and how to make that happen, but that's the kind of leadership that I've shown and the leadership that other members of the committee and my fellow councilors have also shown.
Thank you. I think we have time for one quick question, 30-second responses. Mr. Soucy raised the issue of Keno. Keno's on the ballot, public referendum, and election day. Where do you stand on Keno and why? Mr. Werner.
You know, I've generally been opposed to expanded gaming, certainly on the state level, and I don't think it's the best revenue source. I'd like to look at other sources that are more sustainable. I personally would vote against it, really for personal reasons, personal philosophical reasons around gambling.
Thank you. Mr. Forey?
I do think that it should be put to the public, and that's why I'm glad it's on the ballot. I think that I'm in line with the mayor on this, though. I think that if it's going to give us full-day kindergarten and it's going to support it with that $1,100 per pupil, I think it's an idea that we should look at and wait to see what the people of the city say and then go forward with that.
Thank you. Mr. Nyan?
Thank you. I'm supportive of the Keno effort. It does belong in front of the voters. I have no real vested interest one way or the other. However, I do know that on average, the institutions that actually have Keno increase revenue sales by about 16%. That'd be a great boon for our restaurants and bars that choose to do so. That means increased wages for staff members and sales. So absolutely supportive of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Metzen?
Yes, as we are going to be putting it to the vote, obviously. Personally, I'm not a gambler, so it's not going to be something that is a draw for me, but if other people are interested in it, that's up to them on a personal level, so that's why we're putting it to the vote exactly. In this particular instance, my understanding is that the $1,100 for kindergarten isn't tied to Keno one way or the other, so I'm not really sure that, if it's a boon for the city and it's not causing a negative effect, then I have no problem with it.
Mr. Soucy? Thank you.
Yeah, like I said before, at first I didn't really know about Keno, but I got a good education from Kelly J. from the lottery, and I kind of understand it a lot more now than I did before. But I know a lot of people who don't want Keno, they don't want gambling. I'm not a gambler. I probably spend $10 or $15 a week on lottery tickets, if that. But I know people, state reps, legislators here and there, I'll see you this weekend. Oh, no, I'm going down to Foxwood, or I'm going down to Mohegan Sun and go gambling. And you don't want Keno or anything in your state? Oh, no, we'd rather go to Vegas. We'd rather go here. And,
Thank
I'd
you.
rather keep the money here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Susi. Mr. Sky?
Thank you. I think this is just an example of the strain of being a property tax dependent revenue source. I think Keno is basically a tax on the desperate and destitute, and I'm not in favor of it. And I'd like to think we could find other revenue sources.
Thank you. Mr. Zolkik?
Thank you. I believe that Keno will bring a lot of people to Concord. A lot of businesses will see a benefit from Keno, and the kindergarten is also a benefit. Franklin just passed Keno, and I'm glad that it's on our ballot as well, and I look forward to supporting it. Thank you.
Okay, we're down to closing statements. So you have 1 minute for this, and we'll start with Mr. Zolkik.
Yep. I believe that change is never easy, and I know that I'm a new face to this process, and I'm a new voice, but I hope that on November 7th you can vote for me. I believe that if we have the same group of people looking at the same issues year after year and nothing is being resolved, I believe that it's time for a change. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to current councilors, but I believe it's time for a change and it's time for a new voice. Thank you.
Mr. Sky.
Thank you. I think property taxes are a big concern. They put they tend to cause counselors to have blinders on what's possible and what's sustainable. I think the Heights is a big example of sort of development that's gone array in our city. Very concerned about the continued development of strip malls and box-type stores with more cutouts, and that's just going to bring more traffic that what I heard no one wanted when we were debating the Loudon Road diet. I'm still in shock that the council rejected approximately $1.2 million in federal grants to repave Loudon Road, and instead voted to repave it in a way that put that $1.2 million burden on the city residents. I think I'm someone who would bring a focus on sustainable growth and would put people first, and I would ask for your vote on November 7th.
Mr. Susi.
Yeah, I just hope you could come out and vote for me. I'm a very caring family man. My wife and I raised 3 children, great kids, and we have 1 grandson. And we're very given people. Matter of fact, just today about 5 o'clock, my wife says to me, can we cut a check for so-and-so for their rent for Friday? And I was out doing a little bit of raking, and I said, yeah, just let me know. And so we're going to have company Friday at 11 o'clock, and we're going to try to help them out. But it's just small things, you know. Like I had a very, very good career, and, you know, God was good to me and my wife. And even though I had medical issues, I'm doing well. And, you know, thank Lord for that. And I just want everyone to be happy and work together and try to resolve a lot of issues. It's just, please come out and vote. Thank you.
Ms. Mattson.
Hi. I'm focused on trying to do, I know that we've talked about taxes ad infinitum, but it really is important, and part of it is really looking to capitalize on some of the gains that we've made starting with the revitalization of Main Street. But that's the whole idea, is to build momentum and invigorate our city in a sustained way, to get diverse new businesses in and for job growth, so that we can try to reduce that burden on the individual taxpayer, because we have so many, actually the issue here is that we have a lot of exempt properties, and it makes it much harder for us to get the services that we need, or to pay for the services that we need, to find that way to do that. I also wanted to touch back on putting Concord first as chair of Northern Pass, and that, you know, as if we're burying the lines that we were talking about, the council has voted for, that may have a very significant impact on us and our future in terms of economic development, because if those lines are going through the city, that also is not attractive to businesses and or people who want to come to the city. Lastly, what I will say is that I responded to constituents' concerns that resulted in the refusal of the federal money for Loudon Road because the constituents are telling me they did not want it. We had the money, the federal money, it was $1.7 million, and we were hoping to, utilize that and take the burden off the taxpayers, but the taxpayers told us that they did not want a 3-lane road. So we listened to them, and we refused the money. But that was listening to our constituents and following through on their wishes. So hoping that you'll come out and vote on November 7th, and hope to see you at the polls. Thank you.
Mr. Nine.
Thank you. In short, I honestly believe that I represent the interests of Ward 7 really better than my competitor, Mr. Forey. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a fourth-generation resident of the South End. I've lived in Ward 7 my entire life. My wife of 25 years has lived there with me. My 3 children go to the same schools that I attended as a child. My friends still live in Ward 7. The parents of my friends live in Ward 7. As a municipal employee, I understand the value of family budgets. I understand the impact that tax increases have on those budgets. Really, I believe I represent those interests better than anybody else. Value-wise, I am a fiscal conservative who has long championed public safety. I am a staunch supporter of our our General Services Department and public infrastructure. And really kind of the final piece of that third leg of the stool is experience. I've represented the Ward 7 now for 12 years. Many of the things that Mr. Forey has stated and believes in, I believe in. Really, it's the experience in delivering on those initiatives as compared to someone who's inexperienced. So I ask for your vote on November 7th and look forward to seeing you at the polls. Thank you.
Mr. Forey.
Thank you to the Concord Monitor, Community TV, and to the high school for hosting tonight's debate. You've heard a lot of candidates tonight answer questions and address issues. As a voter now, especially in Ward 7, you have a choice between 2 candidates. And you need to know what the differences are. Well, Keith and I have a lot in common. We both love Concord, and we both love the South End. We are both nice guys, and we both dress alike. And if I put my glasses on, we kind of look alike. But Keith and I have stark differences as well. Keith is a 7th-generation South Ender. If this was a monarchy, he would be entitled to the position. And that's what happens with politicians. When they get in, they feel they're entitled to the position, and they don't listen to the voters. I've gone door to door. I've listened to the voters, and I'm hearing them with resounding results, what they want. They want to change. They want a voice in the council for Ward 7. So you do have a choice. I promise, if you elect me as your Ward 7 representative, I will work hard. I will bring a new voice, a fresh set of eyes. I'm not attached to any special interest groups or cliques. I'm asking you respectfully for your vote on November 7th as Ward 7 City Council. Thank you.
Mr. Werner.
Thank you. Thank you for organizing this event tonight. I asked the residents of Ward 5 to return me to the Concord City Council so that I can continue working in collaboration with all members of our community to improve the quality of life in the city that we love. Supporting smart investments in economic development to expand our tax base and create economic opportunity. Promoting sustainable policies that both improve the environment and save taxpayers money. And advocating for our residents to assist them in their dealings with city government when needed is the hallmark of my service.
Thank you.
Thank you, and please vote for me on November 7th, and make sure you get out and vote and have a good turnout. Thank you.
Great, and I'd like to point out that we have a couple candidates who are not here, Sean Riley in Ward 5 and Dan St. Hilaire in Ward 10, and actually have a statement from Dan that he would like us to read. I'm sorry I'm unable to attend tonight's forum as I'm out of state on business. As a member of the council for the last 12 years, I've been fortunate to work with other like-minded officials who want Concord to provide the best service to its residents at the lowest price possible. Concord has changed for the better over the last decade or two. If residents like what the city has done to improve Main Street, attract new businesses on the Heights, pave major arteries such as Loudon Road and Fisherville Road, create traffic improvements near White Park and exit 16, nearly eliminate the odor from the water treatment plant, protect open space, and plan for new recreation opportunities along the Merrimack River in White Park, all while maintaining a tax rate that is reasonable and in many cases less than other surrounding communities that offer far less service, then I ask for your vote on November 7th. Thank you. So I'd like to thank all the candidates for coming out. I really appreciate your time. We all appreciate your time, and we'd like to thank everyone for coming out. I'd like to thank Concord TV, Concord School District.
And we urge everybody to get out and vote on November 7th. Thanks a lot.
Have a good night, everybody.